Hello, and welcome to another episode of our Accelerated ID series. My name is Shantae Skilldagger, and I am the Chief Trainologist and founder of the Instructional Design Company. Today, we're going to be talking about building portfolios that can help you land your dream job. And joining me for this episode today is Darlene Dalgleish. She is one of our Accelerator alumni, and she comes to us with so much experience. She has more than 20 years of experience as an instructional designer, working with adult learners in blended and digital formats. She is an expert at creating beautiful learning experiences that help businesses get their needs, all the while engaging the adult learner. So join me in welcoming Darlene to this episode. Welcome, Darlene. We are so glad.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So we don't have a lot of time together, so we're going to dive right in and start digging into this content. So Darlene, I would love it if you would share with our audience, what is a portfolio and how is that different from a resume, or what kind of different support might that add to strengthen somebody's credibility as an instructional designer?
Right. So I feel that the portfolio has really become a big thing in the instructional design world. So it used to be a time that it was really only graphic designers, artists, photographers, that type of thing that would need a portfolio. Those days seem to be gone now, though. So what is it? A resume really is no longer enough, as a resume only lists your skills. Whereas, why do you need a portfolio? You need a portfolio because it showcases your skills. So it's the proof that you can actually do what your resume says you can do. And as you had mentioned, Shantae, it really does help build your credibility. Plus, it gives you a leg up on your competition as well.
I love that. Like, just the proof, right? Because a lot of times hiring managers will go into an interview process thinking that they have a really exceptional candidate, because we can all say anything that we want on a resume, right?
Yes.
The sad truth is that people do stretch the truth in order to get a job, but that portfolio could be like a truth teller in some ways, because somebody can pop into your portfolio, click around, check some things out, and see if your skill set really matches what you've put on your resume. So really, really good point about calling that out as proof. I love that. So I know that we kind of touched on this just a little bit, but let's dig into it a little bit more if we can. Why does an instructional designer need a portfolio? And as a freelancer, do you think this is a must-have or a nice-to-have?
I'm here to tell you, as a freelancer, it is an absolute must-have. I've had many potential clients, or even when I was applying for corporate roles and roles outside of my freelance business, employers and potential clients are definitely looking for it. They are asking for it. They expect it. So not only are they looking for it, but again, they expect it. I've got to say that twice because it's so important. They're looking for it because, like, why is it important? It's the portfolio really showcases your skills that you possess. And it's not so much solely about your years of experience in education anymore. It can also be time consuming to build. So it's almost impossible to build it overnight, at least a good one that's going to get you recognized. So you want to start on it sooner than later, for sure.
Awesome. So what should we include in our portfolio? What do you suggest that people include in this digital portfolio format?
I always recommend filling it with projects that will showcase the skills that you're passionate about. For example, if you're not really feeling videos and you really don't like editing or building them, then you don't want to fill up your portfolio with a bunch of videos, because it's going to send the wrong message to potential clients and employers. I'll share at this point my screen, and I'll take you into my portfolio just to show you, to give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So my portfolio actually includes a mix of different sample projects and some real projects. You do want to be careful though. I'm just going to go out there and go to the homepage so you can see. So here's that mix that I was talking about. So I've got a little bit of everything. I've got a lot of storyline. Articulate is my go-to. So I've got a bunch of that kind of stuff. One thing I want to mention here, though, before we go too far too fast, is you just want to be careful if you are including any real projects in your portfolio. You'll just want to make sure that you have permission to do so, since the content is often proprietary to that company. So some companies may just ask you to, yeah, go ahead, just remove our branding, while others may say, absolutely no way, sorry, you can't use it. So you don't want to assume, you always want to ask.
Awesome. Awesome. So in your experience, what do you do when someone says no, that you can't share information on your portfolio because it is proprietary? What suggestions do you have, or what would you recommend someone do in place of adding that content?
Well, I come from the corporate world. So if we go back to my portfolio for a sec. So me coming from the portfolio world, my experience is actually in insurance, and I was an instructional designer there. So I definitely could not use any of the materials. I didn't even have to ask. I just knew that it was an automatic no can do. So what I did was I actually used this cool little site you can go to. It's called Go Design Something. And it's exactly as you see here. It's just a website that offers project ideas for instructional designers. And it gives you those ideas. It gives you like, well, who is your audience? Who are you building it for? What's the brief? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? What type of deliverables are you looking at? Maybe the one here, this doesn't really interest me, so I'm just going to say, give me another. So you can click on that. And that one I'm not really into. So you could keep on clicking forever. There's thousands of them in here, but you get the drift of it. You can go in, and it ultimately gives you everything that you need to get started to build an asset specific to that. So really, to answer your question, it doesn't need to be anything corporate and company. If you've been told no flat out, you can start designing something and building something. Do your own research, take a moment, look at some ID postings out there, that some of the job postings for companies that you'd like to work for. Look under their qualifications, what authoring tools interest you. So they're always going to list some of the common ones: Articulate 360, Camtasia, Adobe, Captivate, that kind of thing. And then once you've decided, hey, that one looks good, you've picked out some tools that interest you, how are you going to know? You can just go in and Google, and YouTube is your best friend. Articulate Storyline is one of my go-to tools, so I use that one.
Awesome. Awesome. And I love that tip that you just shared about godesignSomething.com. I think you're the one that introduced me to that site sometime last spring. And I remember that I just kept clicking and clicking and clicking through because I wanted to see what all the different project suggestions were on that site. So it was really cool. Thank you for sharing that then. And then thank you for sharing that today with the audience.
Sure, absolutely. So we can go back to my screen again, and I'll show you here so it makes sense as I chat around it. I kind of robbed that idea from some of the other examples of portfolios that I looked at. I thought it was a really good idea because ultimately, what's a portfolio again? It's showcasing your skills. And maybe the hiring manager doesn't necessarily know, well, what does, if I just say flagship project, what does that even mean? what's interactive quiz, that's great. I can click on learn more, but what actual tools? They're looking at your qualifications. Do you meet their qualifications? So if they want someone that has experience with Storyline and Rise through Articulate, then they can actually just quickly define that by scrolling through and saying, okay, she's got PowerPoint, she's got this, she's got that, so they can actually see what I've got. Another thing just to point out that I did in my portfolio as well is when I go under About Me, I also took another opportunity to list out my skills, even though that may clash a little bit with what I was saying earlier of how a resume lists it out. This is also just a little bit more additional proof that, yeah, okay, I showcased it. And now here's a quick bird's eye view of what can I do. So what are my areas of expertise? So I did take that opportunity in my portfolio as well.
Awesome. So Darlene, what tools do you recommend that folks use to build their assets? What do you use?
For myself, my go-to tool is Articulate 360. I really, really love Rise and absolutely Storyline too. They're two very popular tools within Articulate. But just because I love that doesn't mean that that's necessarily for everyone. So kind of going back to what I had said earlier, before you start building anything, if you're brand new to it, really do your research. Look at those ID jobs, pull out those qualifications, what authoring tools, use the ones that interest you. How do you know what? Again, look at like YouTube and that type of thing. Because we'll focus on Articulate though. Articulate 360 actually offers like a 60-day free trial. So a 60-day free trial. Before you start going into any trial, no matter what authoring tool you've decided to prey upon, you want to take some time and map out your projects. So what do I mean by that? I mean, go into that, go design something, decide on what your topic is, plan it out. In the instructional design world, we call that storyboarding. So what will it look like? What will it say? And get really specific. So now when you go turn to example, the Articulate 360 60-day free trial, you can really take advantage of that 60 days because you just don't want to pop into it on day one. Oh, yay, after today's session, I'm going to pop in there. If you're not ready to start day one of 60 days, that time goes by so fast. And you just want to make the most of it and dedicate your time to actually building your assets. And I think one last thing I'd say on that is also be mindful of your time frame. So if you've got upcoming work or personal commitments coming up and the holidays are just around the corner, maybe December 15th isn't the best time for you to go in, and you're taking like 2 weeks potentially out of your 60-day trial. So just kind of be mindful of your own personal work and timing commitments too.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
Now,
welcome.
where would you recommend hosting your portfolio once it is built and you have all of your assets that you want to put in it? Where do you recommend putting that?
So really, no matter what authoring tool you decide to use, there's tons of different resources online available to you. I check things out big time from looking at, if you even go into the instructional design company's website, there's a bunch of sample portfolios there, and there's information for, you can use this website or you can use this one. You can actually, if you've never built it before, I find that the e-learning heroes are an amazing community with Articulate 360. They've got tons of resources available, such as e-learning books, examples, challenges, tutorials, etc. My personal favorite is their step-by-step tutorial. So I can actually show that to you now.
Okay.
So this is the e-learning heroes. This is the community specifically for Articulate 360. And you can see on the right-hand side here, they've got a bunch of different tutorials for each one of their products that they offer under the 360 suite. Probably two of the most common that you'll hear spoken around all the time are Storyline and Rise. So we'll just pick on Rise if I click on that. And it's amazing. They do such an amazing job. You can actually just sit back and watch a quick video of it just to demonstrate what their authoring tool looks like. Or if you want to get deeper into it, for any one of these tools, you can click on check out the complete user guide. And it will take you into exactly that. And it starts off just like any other guide. It starts off really basic and then starts getting deeper and deeper and allows you to practice as you play with it and get familiar with it. So it's extremely helpful.
And we're just so that we can like be transparent and give all the good information to the audience. What tool did you use to build your portfolio? What is that built on?
Oh, sure. Sorry. I think that you had asked that to begin with, and I got off on a tangent.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We'll just roll with it.
Yeah. So you can actually build your portfolio or host your portfolio. There's so many different great website builders out there. Once again, do your homework, check and see what's available. There are some that are free, whereas others do come with a monthly payment. I personally used Google Sites to build mine, and it was completely free. You may hear out there, or you've already heard of, that you can purchase a personalized domain name for whichever site you go with. That is definitely true with Google Sites, so you don't have to. Some people will argue, oh, well, you should, because otherwise the URL that connects your website is really super long if you don't have it personalized. And then it'll be harder to find you. I found for Google Sites, one of the reasons why I used it was not only was it free, but it also allowed me to personalize my URL. So the URL is a www.darlenedalgleishportfolio.com, right? So it did allow me to personalize the URL at no cost. And so I added my name to it. Some people will argue, though, that, well, you know what, like you really want to purchase a domain so that your URL isn't so long because no one's going to want to type it out. My experience has been I've never, ever had anyone need to type it out. Yes, it can be long, but for me, that wasn't a deal breaker. I think in the end of the day, purchasing a domain is really just a personal preference if you do or don't.
So in our instructional design and tech accelerator program, we teach, building with Google Sites because it is free. You can customize your URL, which we love, but I would love to hear from you as a user, like how easy is it to use? Is it complicated? Does it make you want to pull your hair out? Or, does it have an intuitive user interface? Talk to us about that. What's that experience like?
I found it extremely easy to use, and I can say that wholeheartedly because I've worked with my own business. I actually, I'm an incorporated company. So I had previous to that used GoDaddy as the website to build, or as a web builder to build my website. So I did have some experience already on building a website. And while GoDaddy is very, very user-friendly too, it does come with a cost. So I found when I went into Google Sites, I was a little bit hesitant thinking, oh, it's going to be a freebie. How much is it going to offer? I was blown away by how much it offers. Like it was actually super easy to use. And it's amazing. Like if you gave 3 people the opportunity to build their website in Google Sites, not one of them are going to be the same. There's so many different blocks and features and such that you can put into it.
Awesome. Darlene, do you know of any good resources that we could drive people to on maybe a how-to on how to build in Google Sites?
There is actually a really good video that I watched the other night. It was through YouTube, and it was Tim Slade. And he actually had a step-by-step of how to build through Google Sites. So it was Google Sites again. And it was very detailed. It was like an hour and a bit. So it was kind of funny because I brought it up and I'm watching it. It's like Saturday night or something. Like I need a life, I think. But I'm sitting there watching it, and this was recent. And my husband came in the room and he's like, oh, what is this you're watching? So I'm telling him, he goes, don't you have your portfolio built already? I'm like, yeah. He goes, isn't it getting some good mileage? I'm like, yeah. He goes, like, leave it alone. Like, so it was good advice. Once it's done, you kind of have to step away if it's working for you, because you're always going to find something bigger and better. But yeah, but his video was great.
Awesome. And I love Tim Slade's website.
Yeah.
There's so much great information out there. His YouTube channel is amazing. So definitely check that out. There's a lot of really good stuff there. So Darlene, as we wrap up, I would love to hear just like, what is your best piece of advice to those who are going to build their portfolio?
I think really just once you do have your portfolio done, I think that actually I'll step back for a sec, because we tend to, all of us are guilty of this, or many of us are guilty of this, where we all think that we have to have like 20 different assets and 5 of this and 5 videos and 10 of this and etc. You don't have to get it to a level that it's truly done, finished forever before you publish. So mine only had like, I don't know, 3 or 4 assets in it. And then as I continued to build, then I continued to add. And it's forever a moving project. Like, it doesn't have an end target date on it. So you can build something in there tomorrow, take it out, revise it, put it back in, change it around, totally change the look and feel of it if you feel it's not working for you and getting the mileage that you want out of it. And I think that once you've got it published, you really need to publish it everywhere. So add that link to your LinkedIn, splash it all over social media. Not only did I just put it in LinkedIn, but I also added a post to LinkedIn saying, hey, it's done now, and asking people to check it out. You can do the same in the Hangout and Facebook group and say, now my portfolio is done. Do you mind looking at it? The more you get it out there, the better. Definitely link it to your resume as well. So put it everywhere that you can possibly imagine.
Awesome. And I know that we're almost coming up on time. How often should we update the portfolio to keep it current? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I personally, for myself, I didn't put any dates on it, and I tried to keep it current as I built it, meaning like, I didn't want something to stand out. So someone would say, oh, like that's so 1980s. Like, I wanted to stay away from that. So you can really, it's going to be your own personal preference, like how much you update it. I've had some longtime IDs now tell me with their portfolios that they just made it to get a job, and that was like 4 years ago, and they haven't even looked at it since then. So it really depends on what path you're looking at and your own destiny. What do you want it to the end result to be for that portfolio, right?
Awesome. And I think this will be our last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Have you gotten any feedback from any prospective employers or prospective clients since you're in the freelance space? Have you gotten any kind of feedback about your portfolio?
Actually, thank you for asking. Yes, I have. I've had a lot of recruiters reach out to me on LinkedIn, and they're like, hey, we saw your portfolio and looks like you'd be a good fit for X, Y, and Z because we saw your list of skills. So I think listing those skills and making it clear to anyone that's not truly just instructional designer. So the more plain language and simplified you can make it, the more mileage you're going to get out of it. So yeah, I've had some good feedback. So that's been really rewarding.
And I think that's a really good tip too. And just your story or your example here reinforces your tip about posting it out on your social platforms and asking for feedback. Hey, it's finished. And then requesting that feedback, because you never know who's going to pop in and look at it and see that skill set. So that's a really good tip. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I just want to say, as we are wrapping up, thank you so much, Darlene, for taking the time to come and be a part of our Accelerated ID series here in the Hangout and sharing your knowledge and your expertise around portfolios.